This video is brought to you by the crazy geniuses at NVIDIA Geforce Now, powered by Pentanet, who managed to somehow bring cloud gaming to our great southern land. Click the link below to try it for free, or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. I kind of said my year-end thank yous and farewells in my year-in review video yesterday, so let's keep this one all about the games. Here are the 10 best games I played in 2021. As I've said in the past, when I approach a Game of the Year list, I place a huge premium on innovation, on how much a game brings new ideas to the table, challenges the conventions of a genre, or accomplishes something that no other game has accomplished. This makes Metroid Dread a somewhat awkward fit for this list because while Metroid Dread is many things, innovative really isn't one of them. Metroid Dread's greatest strength is how closely it harkens to the classic Metroidvania formula that it essentially invented. It retains its 2D perspective, its labyrinthine map, its huge number of power-up collectibles, and its old-school approach to hiding secrets, forcing the player to shoot walls in the hope of getting lucky. I think it's totally fair to say that the Metroidvania formula has evolved in many ways that Metroid Dread simply doesn't reflect. The level design of Hollow Knight is no less intricate, but it's connected in a more intuitive fashion. The power-ups of Ori aren't just different colored keys to unlock doors, but are meaningful expansions of Ori's capabilities, each of which significantly expand moment-to-moment combat, exploration, and traversal. And the combat of Guacamelee is just so much more deep and complex and interesting than anything Dread is capable of serving up. So I think all these things, right? I really do believe that from a design perspective, all of those games that I just listed are better Metroidvanias than Metroid Dread. But I just had so much fun playing Metroid Dread, I really did. Part of that was nostalgia, returning to a franchise from my youth. Part of that was my respect for this entry and the fact that it was an unashamed return to that classic format. Part of that was the subtle refreshes to each part of the gameplay formula, particularly the way Samus feels as you run her around and the satisfaction of landing a perfect parry. A big part of it was just how fucking badass Samus was and the way she tore through this facility like a fearless hurricane without even bothering to turn around and look at all the enemies she left in her wake. Mercury Steam made a fantastically polished Metroid game, but it wasn't their innovation that's being celebrated here. Hell, the Emmys are easily the worst part of this entire experience, as the encounters with them quickly devolve into frustrating trial and error repetition. Mercury Steam's success lay in knowing just how timeless the classic Metroid formula is, and they held to that from the moment you land your ship to the moment the credits roll. It was a risky play given how much this genre had moved in the 16 years since Zero Mission, but it was the right call, and Metroid Dread is a reminder that a game doesn't need to be wildly innovative to be fantastic. And that wasn't the only game this year to prove that. Halo Infinite can be reduced to green man, blue woman, shoot alien, ride warthog, smash hammer, but in my view, Halo Infinite is arguably the most fascinating game release of 2021 because of the way that it sits at the intersection of industry happenings and game design and evolving business models. The story of the making of Halo Infinite is already a legendary one, a studio purpose-built to make Halo games that has struggled to do so for over a decade, a disastrous Master Chief Collection, a disappointing Halo 5, and Halo Infinite reveals so bad that it forced the game to be delayed for a full year, scuttling Microsoft's dream of a new Halo game as a flagship launch title for their new console. 6 years in development, huge churn at the upper echelons of the project, rumors of cut content and the delay of key game features like campaign co-op and Forge. That's a very concerning list of bullet points and would lead even the most optimistic observer to be more than a little worried about what might arrive on our hard drives come launch day. And yet, they pulled it off. They really did. Much like Metroid Dread, Halo Infinite bets on Halo. It bets the house on the enduring appeal of its world, its characters, its underlying gameplay, its 30-second loop. And that bet paid off so large that it got this game through what could have been a very damning court of public opinion. Because objectively, Halo Infinite has a lot of problems. It's missing core features like co-op, its level design is extremely repetitive, its multiplayer mode is missing maps and playlists, and its progression is atrociously bad. Pretty much the worst progression I've ever seen in any non-mobile free-to-play game, in fact. But it's just so fucking fun to play this video game, my god. Even when I was playing the campaign, which I didn't love, I was still having a blast. A lot of people were really confused by my Halo review because they were like, well, you complain about the story and the world design and the levels and the missions, but then you say the gameplay is good. How are you recommending this? I'm like, dude, you skipped over the most important part. The gameplay is so good that it is a joy to play this game, even when you're trundling down the same Forerunner hallway for the 15th time or taking down your 10th fob base of the day because Ubisoft ruined open world game design. And the multiplayer, man, I still play this so regularly. I'm waiting for its progression to suck less, and I know that's going to be a long wait, but Halo Infinite is the most fun I've had with a competitive PvP game since I really don't know when. I've never enjoyed Destiny's PvP as much as I've enjoyed this, and I actually like Destiny PvP, generally speaking. I don't mind Battle Royale games, but I don't love them. Halo was just my jam when I was a teenager, and Infinite brings me back to that feeling in a way I thought I'd never experience again. It remains to be seen if we'll end up losing more than we gain with this vision of a live service Halo game. We'll find out the answers to that in the years to come, but for now, we can just play and play and play, content in the knowledge that 2021 marked the return of the king. As you do this job, you become more and more aware of your own biases and proclivities. For example, I really dislike most open world game design. I think the convenience of map markers and GPS guidance has made game makers lazy, such that they put no effort whatsoever into making spaces that can or should be explored. I grew up on Morrowind. You wanted to find a location in Morrowind, you opened up your journal and you read the clues, you tried to make some sense of the meager hints they gave you. When you closed that book and looked up, you said to yourself, okay, here goes. You didn't know where you were going, but you hoped you were on the right track. And as you took each step, you might be distracted by something on the roadside or on the distant horizon. What's over there, you might ask? That's the question that AAA open world games are uninterested in prompting from you, but it's the fundamental question that drives good open world game design. It's the fundamental reason that Breath of the Wild was as well received as it was. Breath of the Wild seemed like some sort of crazy breakthrough piece of innovative design, but it wasn't. It was just doing the thing that we had all forgotten how to do. Explore. That's why I loved Sable from indie developer Shedworks. Sable is a beautiful coming-of-age story about a girl who must choose her own path in life, inside the tribe or beyond it, exploration or cultivation, peace or conflict, with others or in isolation. Your tribe will guide you for those first few awkward steps, but after that it falls to you to make your own way in Sable's serene, multicolored world of vast emptiness and decay. Sable's world appears dying, but its inhabitants have lost none of their optimism for life. They celebrate your rite of passage as they meet you, and with but a few brief, cheery words, they seem to breathe life into the barren landscape that you wander. Sable has things like map markers and quest logs, but they exist as a fallback option. The game is not designed around those things. Instead, the game is designed around the horizon, inviting you to distant landmarks with a twist of smoke or a scattered ruin or the skeletons of a fallen titan. When you arrive there, there's often nothing. But even then, you don't sigh in frustration. You're thankful that your curiosity was piqued at all. The joy of Sable is rarely to be found in your destination. It's in the journey toward it, the mix of excitement, curiosity, and wonder that permeates every moment and every step you take. It doesn't hurt that Sable has the most distinctive art design of any game this year, and one of the best soundtracks, scored in large part by Japanese Breakfast. Sable is a rare harmony of audio, visuals, and design. As time goes on, I expect it will take its place as a timeless classic that we'll return to, or share with others who have not yet had the joy of experiencing it. Okay, so for this next one, I would like to say that this is not a joke. This is a serious entry in my Game of the Year list. This is not a troll. Are you ready? Okay, roll it, Austin. If you haven't clicked off the video yet, thank you for staying. I appreciate it. Okay, Destiny 2. It is known that I am a Destiny fan, and so you might think that this entry is that thing that people do where they're like, oh, this thing really fucking sucks, but I like it, so it's going on my list because it's my list, haha. Destiny 2 is not on my list simply because I like it and I want it to be. It's on this list because I genuinely believe that Destiny 2 is right now a genre-defining, cutting-edge action RPG MMO-light experience, and this year Destiny 2 has become the best version of Destiny we have ever seen. It started with the release of the Beyond Light expansion last year, which considerably expanded the class design for each of the 3 classes, adding ice-based subclasses that are remarkable in how much they enhance both the thrill and complexity of moment-to-moment gameplay. It continued with Bungie's new seasonal model, which delivered 3 absolutely sterling seasons full of new weapons, gear, quests, and activities. Most notably, Destiny's narrative and approach to storytelling changed dramatically. All of those memes about Destiny not having a story, they were basically right until this year. Now they are just outdated and wrong, as Destiny's episodic storytelling perfectly marries the rich lore of the universe with personal drama and political intrigue and tantalizing mystery. Story is now one of the biggest reasons that we all log into Destiny each week, and if you think that sounds unbelievable and ridiculous, then you just haven't been keeping up with how much Destiny has changed. Most importantly, for me at least, Destiny 2 became almost like an ARPG this year, as changes to classes, weapon perks, and enemy density were like releasing a pressure valve, and the power of our Guardian sprays like a mighty fire hose across hundreds of foes, where before it tinkled like a super soaker you hadn't pumped up enough. The feeling of power that Destiny affords you is incredible right now, and coupled with its industry-leading gunplay and its extraordinary raid and dungeon design, Destiny 2's combat is utterly peerless. However, I don't want you to confuse my love and admiration of Destiny with a recommendation of it, because the truth is, I really can't recommend Destiny to any non-Destiny player at this point. Its new player experience is famously terrible. It has cut vast swathes of its content from the game, content people paid for, with no compensation whatsoever for that lost content, and no effort made to protect the continuity of the Destiny 2 saga other than a lame-ass text-based menu. Destiny 2's pricing model becomes increasingly more opaque and confusing as new parts of it are split off and charged for separately, and Destiny 2's transmog system continues to be an embarrassment. Its initial release this year was so profoundly disappointing, there was an almost callous quality to it, no pun intended. Like, Bungie knew how much we wanted this thing because we had been pleading for it for 5 years, and they knew how disappointed we would all be with what they offered up, but they did it anyway. That was a real turning point for me, to be honest. It came at a time when I had fallen in love with Destiny all over again after taking my longest ever break from it. I was drunk on Destiny at that time, and seeing just how scummy that transmog system was really sobered me up very fast. That's the thing, right? I can guarantee you that if you play Destiny 2, Bungie will always deliver you an exceptional video game, but they will almost always disappoint you as a paying customer. A lot of Destiny fans don't get this, or they don't want to get it, or they don't understand how pervasive this perspective is outside of the Destiny community. They do crude dollars to hours equations and they say, well, I got my money's worth. It's not about the money, it's about trust. The biggest thing holding back Destiny isn't the quality of the game, because the game is exceptional. It's about Bungie and their relationship with their customers, past, present, and potential. Even though Bungie make the best game in its class and one of the best games on the market today, they always find a way to make you feel ripped off by it. It's an astounding achievement when you think about it, but Bungie consistently do that. For the price of a few bucks, Bungie mortgage millions of dollars worth of goodwill and keep Destiny forever trapped in this narrative of being a game that doesn't respect your time and money. If Bungie can figure out a way to break free of that narrative, then a golden age awaits us. One where we all get to love Destiny in public. We get to recruit our friends to it. The love-in that the entire gaming community has around Final Fantasy XIV right now, that could be Destiny's, because the game deserves that sort of love. Right now though, Destiny is for the true believers and the true believers only, which makes me sad, because I wish more people got to experience everything this game has to offer. When you consume the quantity of video games and video game news that we all do, it's sometimes easy to slip into cynicism, especially with regards to the output of AAA publishers. That's why I think our initial reaction to Square Enix's Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't particularly surprising. Hell, most of the Marvel games that have come out this generation were cash grab mobile nonsense, and I include Marvel's Avengers in that, a game so clearly created to milk live service money out of people that it may as well have been a mobile game. The Avengers game was such a colossal disappointment that when Square first revealed Guardians of the Galaxy, everyone, and I mean everyone, was like, uh-oh, here we go again. As easy as it is to slip into cynicism, it's just the best feeling ever to be slapped the fuck out of it. And that's exactly what happened when we all got our hands on Guardians of the Galaxy. This game is phenomenal, and my appreciation for it has only grown as I see just how many people have connected with its earnest, funny, thrilling, ridiculous, moving tale of a band of unlikely heroes coming together to help each other heal and maybe saving the galaxy in the process. The strength of Guardians of the Galaxy's writing cannot be overstated. It is one of the most complete scripts to have ever graced a video game, full of the galaxy-level stakes that necessitate your planet-hopping adventure, but in every moment grounded by brilliantly fleshed-out characters, each of whom peel back the layers of their trauma to reveal their deepest, most carefully guarded vulnerabilities. Crucially, the broader macro threat is rooted in the inner journey of each character, so it never feels like the game is delivering you optional exposition the way that, say, Mass Effect did. Every sidebar chat or flashback moves the overall plot forward, and that was just such a stroke of genius for these writers to arrive at. Guardians of the Galaxy has received mixed feedback on its gameplay, which yeah, I echo that. It's definitely not its strongest suit, but it's by no means bad. It just kind of left a lot on the table, and you can easily imagine how much more this game could have achieved were all four of the Guardians controllable rather than just Peter Quill. Beyond that though, I do feel as though the phenomenal writing has overshadowed the game's many achievements, like its facial capture and lip sync, which are among the best in any video game, or its visuals, which are, again, among the best in any video game, or its bangin' soundtrack, which is a rarity these days owing to the prohibitive cost of licensed music, but here it's just an essential part of this overall experience. It's hard to imagine how this game would have turned out without it. You know, I went back and watched the Guardians of the Galaxy movie recently, and I walked away from it with one clear thought. The game is so much better than the movie, and I really like the movie. These characters are so much more interesting and funny, and the places they visit are so much more fantastical and awe-inspiring, and the villain they face is so much more compelling. It's really hard to go back. The MCU was the defining pop culture event of our generation, and we saw 0 games that were able to translate that phenomenon into a playable experience. 0. That is, until Guardians of the Galaxy came along and showed us what might have been had Disney got their act together and delivered us a video game universe to accompany the cinematic one. If there were an award for most overlooked game of the year, that award would probably go to Hitman 3. Hell, not even I played that one. But in a close second would be Housemarque's Returnal, a game that came out early enough in the year that most people have forgotten it by now, and it was exclusive to the PS5, which no one owns, and it was a really hard third-person bullet hell roguelike that most people can't finish. For this reason and many more, Returnal seemed to quickly achieve an almost cult-like status, where its success was framed not in broad adoption, but in the rare privilege of being able to partake, or in the esoteric appreciation of its seemingly impenetrable format. Returnal is very, very deliberately not for everyone, which means that if it clicks with you, it's gonna click hard, because it was essentially tailor-made for you. With the exception of Destiny, no game this year has given me more joy in the moment-to-moment playing of it. Returnal's level design, weapon design, enemy design, and encounter design are the most fully realized rendition of third-person bullet hell we've ever seen, and the agility of Celine, her lethality either at range or up close, the satisfying feedback of each weapon or gadget as it's fired, it all just feels so good all the time. There's this thing that happens in good action games when all of the game seems to melt away, and you can almost instinctively sense the battlefield, and you move through it as though guided by premonition, and you strike with this ferocious, surgical certainty. That is what Returnal not only engenders but demands, as its punishing difficulty and high-stakes roguelike format leave no room for second-guessing yourself or playing passively. Returnal shines in its attention to detail. It's Its visual design is just so interesting. You want to stop and take in not only the vistas, but also the subtle details in the new tile sets you discover. The time loop mechanic is such a strong complement to the roguelike genre, as it evolves the level design at the same moment that you start to get comfortable with each level. Its audio design is the best of the year, and it is a crime that it did not win that award at the Game Awards this year. No disrespect to Forza, because, you know, good car sounds are hard, but you played Returnal with your ears, and no other game came close to integrating sound into gameplay in the same way this year. While Returnal has its niche appeal, I expect its fanbase will expand rapidly over the coming years, as more and more people finally get their hands on a PS5, or if the game gets ported to PC, which it probably will, since Sony are pretty big into that sort of thing these days. Returnal will age like a fine wine, as its technical polish, ambitious world building, sublime audio, and addictive gameplay provide this sort of timeless arcade thrill that is so easy to return to again and again and again. I never played Psychonauts 1, but I'd only heard the best things about it. That was unsurprising, as Tim Schafer's blend of highbrow humor and low-stakes gameplay had always served up experiences that you could just kind of marinate in. There was never any urgency, so you could just take your time, rolling around in the weirdness of Tim Schafer's mind and being quietly impressed with yourself for getting most of the jokes. I expected plenty of jokes when I suited up for Psychonauts 2, but I wasn't expecting the best written game of the year, and I say that after heaping all of that praise on Guardians of the Galaxy earlier. This is kind of hard to explain, but Psychonauts 2 is this really inspiring fusion of game design and narrative. Nothing in Psychonauts 2's story exists in its story alone. Each part of it is reflected in the abilities at Raz's disposal, in the enemies he's fighting, in the levels he's traversing, and in the bosses he's squaring off against. For example, one of Raz's abilities is Mental Connection, which is essentially a hookshot allowing him to grapple towards distant ideas, but in so doing, he can also link ideas that shouldn't be linked. That's how he manages to accidentally scramble the brain of his teacher, so she ends up with a gambling addiction. The enemies you fight are called senses and doubt and regret, reflecting the fact that you are in people's minds when you're playing through this game, and those are the biggest demons we face. The imagination of these levels is so astounding. Since they're all a reflection of someone's psyche, they merge their backstories and their defense mechanisms and their darkest fears and their redeeming virtues. You arrive in each of these spaces to see the surface level trappings, but as you dive deeper and deeper into this person's psyche, the layers are peeled back in different ways, and each layer tells a new story. The thing is though, Psychonauts 2 never explains its most important messages. It never feels the need to explicitly tell you you've arrived at the end of a character's arc. It relies on the level design and the intelligence of the player. It trusts that the game has said what it wants to say and that you'd get it. And I love that, because video games are the worst at this. They leave nothing unsaid, but Psychonauts 2 does. Psychonauts 2 is the kind of game that you could sit down with someone and play through a level and be like, what does this mean to you? And you'd have this really great, interesting discussion about that, because you're grappling with the characters and the story, and you're trying to decipher what the level design is saying, and you're reflecting on your own experiences and perspectives and your own struggles, mental or otherwise. Psychonauts 2 invites that sort of exploration, and it really deserves it. We all play games for different reasons: to relax, to test our skills, to connect with others. I really love any piece of media that challenges my worldview or my perspective, that prompts me to think differently, and I don't think any game I played this year did that, except for Psychonauts 2. Sometimes the best games I play in a year, I struggle to review them because I write scripts and then I'm like, well, this fucking sucks. And then after 2 weeks of rewriting, I just resign myself to the fact that I can't find the words to describe just how much I admire something. The next 3 games on this list fall into that category, and it starts here with It Takes Two. I played It Takes Two immediately upon its release. I did it in 2 sittings, and afterwards I was just like, my god, how did they do this? It Takes Two is so good at so many things in such quick succession that it almost feels decadent, like wasteful. Like, this game takes concepts and then builds entire worlds out of them, and then just moves on to the next world before you even have your bearings. The game has more unique mechanics in it than basically every other platformer of 2021 combined, and yet it just tosses those mechanics aside mere moments after you begin to get to grips with them. Entire other games would be built around just 1 or 2 of the levels or mechanics that It Takes Two spins up and then abandons inside of 10 minutes. Like, we've all seen Joseph Fares, right? This game feels like it was made made with his attention span in mind. It Takes Two feels like a co-op game jam where they said to a bunch of people, okay, make a cool co-op game. And then instead of taking one idea and making a game out of it, they took all the ideas and somehow made a game out of that never feels sloppy or stitched together. It's so seamless. I mean, I really can't believe how polished this is. I can't. There's just so much here, and it's also varied that nailing each individual style of play, each minigame, each boss encounter, it just must have been so hard to do all of this as well as Hazelight did it. If this game was doing all of this in single player, I'd already be blown away by it. But the fact that this is co-op is just like, yeah man, like I really do believe this is the best co-op game ever made. Like if you were to say to me, hey, me and my brother or my girlfriend or my dad or my buddy from work or whatever want to play a game together, what do you recommend? I would recommend this every single time because I just think it's impossible to not enjoy this. Like, even if you're the hardened military shooter bro who plays like Tarkov in an organized military unit of dudes, or you play Hunt Showdown, or you're some Souls bro who spent 4,000 hours in Dark Souls PvP, doesn't matter. You are still going to enjoy this. You really are. And that's not because of the all-ages Pixar-like aesthetic or its heartwarming tale, because to be honest with you, I actually think the writing is the worst part of the whole game. It's because the game forces you to work together with your partner in a way where you really need to trust each other, and it's got enough guardrails in place that no matter the skill level of the other person, you're going to be fine. And that means you can just sit back and laugh and savor every moment, because the game very quickly conditions you to understand that every moment is fleeting, and in the very next moment awaits some new level, some new mechanic, some new minigame, some new thing that you never saw coming. It's such an amazing achievement, and if you haven't had the chance to play it yet, then please do rope someone in, anyone, and play it. Neither of you will be disappointed. Valheim. God, I love this game so much. So, Valheim launched into early access at the start of the year and it had no hype behind it. None whatsoever. And it immediately took over. In the first month, this little indie title from a team of 5 people sold 5 million units, and by August it had sold 8 million units. I'm guessing they must be nearing 10 million units now, and we're still deep in the early access period with a long, long road ahead to 1.0. Valheim achieved that success because it took the survival genre, it shaved away its worst, most frustrating aspects, it set itself in a world full of wonder and discovery, and it caps everything off with these little, subtle, almost invisible touches that all combine to create an experience that is so beautiful and serene and idyllic and wonderful. Like, you see this footage and you might think, looks kind of crappy, but I don't think I've seen more beautiful sunrises or sunsets in any game than I have in Valheim. You might look at this landscape and think, just looks like a forest. But you haven't seen the way the procedural generation can create these beautiful bays and coves and inlets and rivers and prairies that when you find them, your imagination is immediately ignited because you can see what sort of home or settlement you might be able to build there. You might hear some nice music tracks here, but it's not until you've spent dozens or hundreds of hours with these songs that you realize how perfectly they complement the landscapes you explore, or how fitting they are as the score for your personal Viking saga. I grew up on Morrowind, but I graduated to World of Warcraft. WoW has had more influence on me than any other video game, and all these years later, I really vividly remember my 1 to 60 leveling experience. I remember stepping out of Death Knell and into Brill. I remember being killed by Murlocs when I headed too far north, and I remember the first time I saw a towering Tauren on the border of Western Plaguelands. That feeling of exploration and wonder, like I said, I search for that now in every game I can find it. Valheim was the closest I've ever felt to that original feeling I had all those years ago playing vanilla WoW. Back then, we didn't have Thoughtbot or Wowhead, let alone all these mods that just play the game for you now. Back then, we just got lost all the time, and that was great. Back then, you just pushed forward into the unknown and you saw what you found when you got there. Valheim does that exact same thing, but unlike Sable, you don't simply move through these spaces nomadically, you set down roots, and each new lean-to or house or settlement becomes a new milestone in your great journey. That journey, that saga, it's such a defining aspect of Valheim. I have so many stories from this game, like the time my buddies and I were hauling a literal boatload of precious ore while being chased by a sea serpent, and had the ship been destroyed, we would have lost hours worth of work, or the time I thought I'd take a shortcut in a boat, and I ended up sailing halfway around the world only to end up completely stranded, so then my buddies sailed halfway around the world to come and get me, like a Viking rescue party. It's impossible to play Valheim and not have dozens of these stories, all of them totally unique, and all of them more special because you made them with friends. There's a strong belief that Valheim should only be played with a group of friends, and I can understand that perspective. Undoubtedly, Valheim is greatly enhanced when you play it with others, and it was absolutely the best multiplayer experience I had this year outside of Halo Infinite's PvP. But I also did play a lot of it solo just to see how much of it holds up, and I loved it just as much. I loved the freedom to go wherever I wanted and build whatever I wanted at whatever pace I wanted to. I loved how much more prepared I had to be for every eventuality because I couldn't rely on anyone else to save me. It's a harder journey, one of fewer laughs and more frustration, but it's no less worthwhile an experience. Valheim's early access is a blessing and a curse because the game isn't finished, far from it in fact, and any playthrough now ends rather abruptly. But the flip side to that is that you get 2 bites of the cherry. You can experience it now, have a blast, and then put it down, forget about it, come back 2 or 3 years later and do it all over again. The entire experience refreshed, completed, and all new owing to the procedural generation of each world. I cannot wait for that day, and I fully expect Valheim 1.0 to be on one of my future Game of the Year lists as well. At this point, you guys think I'm fucking with you. You think this is some donkey meme where I just give Outer Wilds Game of the Year every year for no reason at all? That might have been true last year, where I somehow managed to twist my Ghost of Tsushima #1 recommendation into, yeah, but I just wish it was more like Outer Wilds. This year though, I have a good excuse, because Mobius Digital Games released Echoes of the Eye, a DLC expansion for the game, and it's, well, I can't really tell you what it is, can I? See, the problem with Outer Wilds is that to describe or show any part of it is to ruin that part. For me to take even a single reveal from you by describing it to you would be such a destructive act because there is no other game in existence that is doing what Outer Wilds is doing right now. So like, if I spoil some part of, I don't know, Resident Evil Village, there are lots of other horror games that are doing basically the same thing. You want to get your hand bitten off in another game, don't worry, you can find a game where you can get your hand bitten off, okay? But there are precisely 0 games doing the same thing as Outer Wilds. So if I take a single moment of this game from you, it's gone forever. You can never get it back, and you can't get anything that replaces it. Outer Wilds Echo of the Eye is not as impressive as the base game, but it's nearly as impressive. Where Outer Wilds would overawe you with its massive scale, Echoes of the Eye impresses you in a completely different way, focusing on one location only, but drilling deeper and deeper into that location in a way that is just incredible. The top 5 most surprising, jaw-dropping moments I had in all the video games I played this year, I had all 5 of those moments in this DLC. The story. It's nowhere near as deep or as sophisticated as Guardians of the Galaxy or Psychonauts, but I found its telling affected me more deeply than the other stories I experienced this year. In key reveals, I would gasp and be like, no, they didn't. You guys have played the game will know exactly what I'm talking about there. Without a single spoken word, Echoes of the Eye really got to me. The bread and butter of Outer Wilds is this clockwork universe and all the secrets it houses. You don't get a single power-up or ability or stat increase your entire playthrough. All you get is knowledge, and it comes so slowly at first. The game can feel so impenetrable, but when you find that thread and you begin tugging at it, the whole ball of yarn starts to unspool, and eventually you find yourself building to this breathless crescendo. That happened in the base game, and it happens here again in Echoes of the Eye. My biggest frustration with Outer Wilds and Echoes of the Eye isn't the game itself, it's the fact that no one else is doing this. There is a reason that so many people call this the best game ever made. That is an increasingly common opinion as more people experience this, but no other developer is attempting this, or anything like it. It's a shame because the design philosophy is so exportable. So many games, particularly open world games, would be infinitely better games if they were to adopt just some of the principles that underpin Outer Wilds. But they don't. And I feel like a crazy person because I'm like, Ubisoft, your games fucking suck. Here's how to make them good. And they're like, no thanks, we'll stick to the NFTs for now. My greatest fear after having played Outer Wilds was that I would never feel what it made me feel ever again. And the greatest gift that Echoes of the Eye gives you is the comfort of knowing, yes, you can. That was a really, really special feeling, and as much as I appreciated the polish of Returnal or It Takes Two, or the story chops of Guardians of the Galaxy or Psychonauts, or the classically inspired thrills of Halo or Metroid, that feeling was just so overwhelming that Outer Wilds is, for the 3rd year running, my game of the year. Now, if you are not Australian, you may go. But Australians, I implore you, stay a while and listen, because this video is brought to you by the biggest Australian news story of 2021. And no, I'm not talking about the return of Tasty Tubes, though I did cry tears of joy when that happened. I'm talking about the arrival of cloud gaming courtesy of Geforce Now, powered by Pentanet. Once thought impossible owing to our archaic coat hanger based internet infrastructure, Geforce Now and Pentanet found a way to make it happen, so that now we too could enjoy the latest, greatest PC games at max settings, ray trace enabled, without having to spend thousands of dollars on a high-end rig, and you can even play those games on your phone or your tablet if you want to. Alright, so let me explain all of this to you, because there's a lot of good stuff here, and I don't want you guys to miss out on any of it. Geforce Now, powered by Pentanet, is a cloud gaming platform that allows you to play your games on almost any device. Your phone, your Android tablet, or any computer at all, including Chromebooks, and including Apple desktops and laptops. This is possible because Geforce Now does all the graphical processing in the cloud and just beams you an image, similar to something like Netflix. So if you have an internet connection of 15 megabits per second or higher, you can start playing games through the cloud on almost any device. So for example, this is me playing Watch Dogs Legion 1080p 60 FPS with ray tracing enabled on my phone. Pretty good, huh? But what if you don't want to use a phone? That's fine. This is footage of me playing Control on my PC through the handy Geforce Now PC client. I just browse through the list of games I own, I boot it up, and within seconds I'm playing Control with ray tracing enabled. This is awesome because it means you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on a next-gen GPU to enjoy games like this at max settings with ray tracing. You can just play it through Geforce Now and save yourself the cash. I know what you're thinking. What about the latency? Good question. And yeah, there's a little bit, but it's very minor. You wouldn't use this to play a Twitch shooter like CSGO, but that's a pretty small subset of games. I use this to play stuff where latency doesn't make a difference. Open world games, adventure games, puzzle games, or narrative-driven games. For all of that stuff, it's perfect. And having used this service since it was in beta, I am constantly impressed at how smooth and responsive it feels. The thing I love most about this service, and the reason I'm recommending it to you, is that Geforce Now, powered by Pentanet, respects your existing game libraries. You don't have to buy games twice with Geforce Now. There's over 1,000 compatible games, and more are being added every week. And if you own those games on Steam, Epic, or Ubisoft Connect, then you can play them on either local hardware or through Geforce Now. It's entirely up to you. Geforce Now, powered by Pentanet, launched this year after a lengthy beta so they could really fine-tune this thing, get it humming. They're so confident in this product that they are giving it away for free. There is a free tier allowing you to experience this for yourself so you don't have to take my word for it. I would love it if you guys did me a solid, clicked the link, signed up and checked it out, not only because Nvidia would look at the sign-up numbers and be like, hey, that's pretty good. But also because I think there's value in this for you. If you want to play games on the go, if you want to be able to keep playing when you are rudely kicked off the TV, if you want to play PC exclusive games but don't want to shell out the dosh for a PC. You can try it for free, or you can sign up for a priority subscription to secure your founder's price, and your founder's price will be locked in for the full lifetime of your subscription, so it's a great time to sign up. The link is below. Like I said, it's free, nothing to lose, so give it a click, sign up, check it out. Thanks Geforce Now, powered by Pentanet, for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.